India have managed to wrap up the series with a win at Ahmedabad, and with that, they've taken it 3-1. Remember, in the first test, Joe Root led from the front and led England to a fantastic victory. And then it was the Indians who came to the party and won the game. Now, we here at Knee Sports once again are extremely delighted to have former England captain Mike Gatting joining us from London. Hi, Mike. Good to have you here. After a short break, I must say.
Yes, Nish, it was a short break, and sadly the cricket was only short as well, but it was certainly exciting.
Absolutely. And yes, as always, this video is powered to you by the Global Cricket School. And we've got Sachin Bajaj joining us. Hi, Sachin. How are you doing?
Yeah, feeling good. I've got to just check with Gat whether he gets me in the president's box at Lord's for the final of the World Test Championship. To use my good offices with Uncle Gat.
But yeah,
Well, we don't know whether it's going. Yeah, we don't know whether it's going to be played at the moment, but we'll find out shortly, I'm sure.
exactly. And we've had two matches at Ahmedabad, the brand new stadium, the huge stadium. It was marked as a great occasion for the people of the city who've been waiting for cricket for quite some time. But in the last two tests specifically, there was a lot of talk about England and their team selection and a lot of other things, especially with the day night test, them going in with the fast bowlers. Then in the last test match, going in a bowler shot. Mike, what are your thoughts on that, especially with the teams that they selected? It didn't look like it was possibly the best team they picked.
Well, it's quite difficult at the moment, obviously, with the rotation. I found it strange, actually, because having just come from Sri Lanka, where they played a lot of spin, there was sort of from my point of view, a lot of good thoughts going on, because you played against spin, mainly spin on turning pitches, against some decent spinners in Sri Lanka. And I thought after the first Test match, where Joe Root obviously made a mark, and we managed to get off to a good start. And I'm not quite sure what happened after that. I know we played on some turning pitches, and perhaps probably the first sort of day-night match somehow sort of confused the guys that it was going to do more for the seamers than it actually did. But when the ball's turning and you see pitches like that, it was quite strange. And I suppose, again, the other scenario was the two spinners. The two spinners that India had were so much better at their control, and that made it very, very difficult for the England batsmen. And if you look at both sides on the batting front, actually, there were some hard wickets to play on, to be fair. I mean, even India's top order struggled, apart from Rohit Sharma, who got a fantastic 160 in the second Test match. The likes of Virat Kohli, Rahane, Gill, Pujara, they all struggled. And it was down to what they call the engine room, certainly for India, that really made a difference. And Rishad Pant in the last Test match, Ravi Ashwin in the second one. There was always somebody getting some runs down the order that made a huge difference. And I have to say, don't forget Sundar Washington. That was a very good knock as well. So in the last Test match. So when you thought England might just be getting back into a Test match, India played extremely well with the bat, which we hadn't managed to do. And as I say, it was a bit surprising for me, because the guys who are out there were supposedly, especially down the all, like Folks, and if you saw the way, in the end, Sibley and the openers, they seemed to struggle a bit. Yet that's all they played in Sri Lanka. So you just had to worry whether it was not so much technique, but down to the mind, and the mind was playing games on them. And they weren't clear in their own mind, maybe, on how they were going to take it on. I don't know, but it's certainly what they didn't work. And I think they'll be looking at it. They'll be talking to themselves about it amongst themselves, and trying to work out what actually happened. We did actually, sadly, lose a bit of form. One of our spinners got some form back in Leach after the first Test match morning. Dom Bess seemed to lose his form, and whether that was the amount of bowling he did, or whether he just felt maybe under a bit more pressure, because on the turning wickets you're expected to get wickets. And I suppose his honeymoon period's over now, so he now has to take responsibility, and it is quite difficult. You talk to Philip Tufnell and people like that. When the wicket's turning, they're expected to get wickets, and that puts them under more pressure. Yet we as batters think, oh, Christ, it's turning wicket. You should be able to bowl on it. Shouldn't be a problem. And I just wonder whether or not that maybe sort of added to the difficulties. But I think having to send Moeen Ali home didn't help. I thought Moeen, and this is a rotation policy that they've got in place. And unfortunately, in the end, we saw Joe Root doing a bit of bowling. Don Best didn't play in one test match that he should have done. And that might have hit his confidence too. Joe Root getting 5 for 8. Well, unbelievable, really. So you sort of look at it all, and there was a lot of what are disconnecting things. And then obviously the selection also, they got wrong, certainly in the third test match. And it was, things seemed to fall apart pretty quickly, having won the first test match. And I'm not quite sure how you go from quite a strong frame of mind as the guys were in, to sort of, finding, not even getting sort of 150 in the third test match, getting bowled out for 80 odd and 130. I know it was a demanding pitch, it certainly was, but we seemed to be, I suppose, not strong enough up top. Can't believe it's technique, but certainly the way they thought they should be playing it didn't turn out to be the right way.
You answered quite a bit of what I wanted to ask you next, but still I will ask you with regards to someone like an Akshar Patel, not a big turner of the ball. And if anything, the batsmen were getting beaten on deliveries that weren't turning, they were going straight through. So why was it that that was happening? And what would be your suggestion to play a bowler like him, the next time that England face a challenge like that?
I will preface this by saying it's very easy sitting here watching, and it's easy to make comments about how people should play. But I was always a believer that getting your legs out the way was most important when you're playing spinners, especially a left arm spinner. When you think the angle of the ball, it's coming into you, and you should try and wait as long as you can, because if the ball does come straight on with the arm and you're going at the ball expecting it to turn, you're going to get hit on the pad all the time. And you're going to be sort of somewhere in the region of the stumps. If it just holds a bit on the pitch, then, with DRS these days, you're going to get given out. In the old days, you might not have done. So I suspect there was a lot of discussion on the commentary. And I think, getting your legs out of the way when you're playing spin. If you watch Joe Root play off the back foot, he keeps his legs well out the way when playing out, so he can get the bat at the ball. And I think, a lot of the time when the ball's turning, I suppose the English players always sort of were taught to a degree to sort of play bat and pad close together. You watch the Indians play, and you'll see them, even on turning pitches, hitting the ball through mid-wicket because they get the bat at the ball. And I just think that's one of the sort of basics of it is you have to be confident of playing the line of the ball with a left armer anyway. And you then sort of look at what, if the ball turns like it did quite sharply on a number of occasions, you just hope it doesn't bowl you and it misses the stumps. But the way, certainly in the third test match, it was turning was quite extraordinary. And a little bit in the second. But, as you say, a lot of them were undone by straight balls playing for the turn, and it hardly did. So that's where I sort of say, the left armour is slightly different, and certainly the pacey bowls as well. If you do make a mistake, he does tend to just rush it through you a bit. And Ravi as well. I mean, Ravi Ashwin was magnificent, and I think just the consistency of Axar was a huge point. He bowled you very few bad balls. Not many people came up and down the wicket, and when they did, it seemed to be a sort of a rush of blood rather than anything else. And also, I think, as we said in the first test match, and I mentioned a little bit of luck goes your way when things are going your way, and one or two dismissals were quite strange. Ollie Pope getting called out, back pad off his back pad, and it looped up. Just those sort of things. Somebody getting hit on the shin guard and it bouncing up and getting caught. But that aside, it was. I suppose you'd have to say very disappointing. And as I say, it's easy sitting here and trying to sort of dissect what goes on, but I think trying to just get away, as we always said, getting up the other end. And as I say, I'm not quite sure we looked at that. And I also think that having to change your top order in the middle of a test match when you want some continuity isn't always good, and especially coming into difficult pitches like this. So someone like Bairstow came in, was a bit at sixes and sevens. I know he'd played in Sri Lanka and done okay. But as I say, it's one of those sort of things that you sort of you need rhythm as batters, and I think neither of the top, apart from Rohit Sharma, really had a long time at the crease. They did on one occasion, maybe through the 4 Test match series, but generally speaking, it was surprising with the quality of the Indian players that really, none of them got in, which I suspect does say something a little bit about the surfaces they played on. So, Virat was saying about, how good is your defence? And yes, it's a fair point. But even he struggled, and he's probably one of the best players, well, if not the best player in the world. He struggled against what I'd say lesser spinners or lesser quality of spinner than was in the Indian side. So I think sometimes you you do have to reflect a bit before you start criticising too much. And it was always easy sitting in a seat, just watching nicely. It was exciting cricket. It was fascinating cricket, and as I say, the best 2 spinners won the Test series for the Indians, and I think that the engine room Pant 100 was fantastic, and has always looked a very dangerous player. But Axer, I mean, he's come in from ball 1, and you wouldn't have thought it was his first Test series. Just quite incredible. And I always think that the sign of a very good spinner is obviously his consistency. And he was very, very consistent throughout. Having said that, that's his first Test series. When he's expected to do things, it'll be interesting to see how maybe that takes an effect on him. But if he continues like he has done, he's going to be an awesome prospect for India going forward.
Exactly. And Sachin, I will come to you. Mike had just mentioned how the Indian top order had struggled, barring Rohit Sharma, and we've got to see what Akshar Patel has to offer in Test cricket. India looking good, but what do you think they can do better as well moving ahead?
See, you're going to be going to the very seam-friendly pitches of England to play the World Test Championship final. You're going after an IPL season. All our players will be in the IPL this time. I don't think there's anybody who's missing out on the IPL. New Zealand will be playing in familiar conditions in England. And I think players like Bihari and all will come into this, and Jadeja will come into this in contention for the England series. And we are not traditionally good starters of a Test series, as has been seen from the last 2 series. So, and we have a very short period to acclimatize in England. The IPL finishes end of the month, and within 3 weeks is the Test match, the World Test final. So it'll be interesting to see how we prepare and plan for that. I'm sure the very astute Ravi Shastri will have something up his sleeve for that. Yeah.
Exactly. And having said that, also about England, they have some good players for the future. Definitely, we've seen glimpses of potential. From some of the youngsters. Joe Root has definitely shown that he is one of the best players in the world. This is a tough tour, and how does one bounce back from this? And you have known the English cricket setup for quite a few years. How do you look at them bouncing back from this and come up stronger when they tour the subcontinent the next time?
See, how I'd evaluate England's performance. They've had 6 Test matches on the subcontinent, 4 in India, 2 in Sri Lanka. They've won 3, they've lost 3. So I won't put it as a write-off summer. Yes, they didn't play well enough against a very strong Indian team, but they have done the best they could to prepare. You're in COVID times, you have a smaller pool of players to choose from. Also, you have to realize England are here playing 3 formats of cricket. So some of the players who've been in bio bubbles went back to spend time with their families, and now they're coming back for the T20s and ODIs. So this is the first time they've had to plan across formats, across bio bubbles, keeping players' mental well-being. And they haven't played well enough to beat India in the last 3 Test matches. India by far were the better side and were very, very, very well-deserved winners of the series. But I'm sure England are going forward, have also got some talented players. I think Dan Lawrence and Ben Foakes have acquitted themselves very well also. and Leach is getting better and better. I think Bess will also come through. They've got some serious players, and Joseph Edward Root is there. Besto came in only at the end of it. Butler was not there. So there are a few things England need to work on. And I'm sure they'll put it together by the time the summer comes in.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes, go ahead.
I'd certainly agree with that, Nishad. Yeah, I think, we didn't see the best of Ollie Pope. I think Ollie Pope's a good player. He's come back from a long sort of injury, and he came in, and I think we haven't seen the best of him. Certainly, Lawrence showed just towards the end there how he played spin and how he came in a very difficult situation and seemed to be able to cope with that. So I think a lot of these guys will go away and they will look at it, and hopefully they will sit down and discuss. You don't become bad players overnight, and I think that's the important thing, that the message from the people that are running the teams should be saying, and they should be saying, look, it's a lesson learned, hopefully. And you just got to hope that they're strong enough mentally, because that's really what it's about. And I know, they're lucky there weren't 60,000 or 100,000 shouting at them as you normally have in India, and that makes a huge difference too. But I suppose also it also, although it spurs the Indians along, I have to say it's a wonderful experience as a touring player to be there, because they're a very knowledgeable crowd anyway, and they like their cricket. So it's one of those sort of things that it wasn't very good. I think they'll all appreciate that, and I think hopefully they will learn from that. But as I say, they don't become bad players overnight, and I think we've got some good young players in there, and hopefully it'll make them stronger as players, and they'll remember how disappointing it was for them, and that they will get a little better, and they'll learn a different way of playing next time, which is what it's all about: learning quickly and learning that it's very, very disappointing to lose Test matches, and become stronger players for that. And I think let's hope we see during the summer. We've got India obviously over in the UK in August going on, and hopefully a lot of them will be steeling themselves for another very strong fight, because India aren't the sort of play well at home. They're now capable of playing well away from home. So again, it's going to be another fascinating summer for us. So yeah, I hope they go away and don't beat themselves up too much, but they just show their captain that they're strong people and they're going to come back.
I think it's definitely something that England can tell themselves, that they have been very, very competitive on all tours, to India especially, over the years. And if we look at history, I mean, even from your time to now, there's probably been only one or two tours that were absolutely forgettable, 1993 being one of them. But on every other tour, England have been more than competitive. In fact, they've had very good chances of even winning. So I think it is there in the English setup to do well in the Indian subcontinent. Even when they lost 4-0 the last time, it wasn't that they were out of the game. It was just that India were better in crunch situations. So definitely, I expect England to be a lot better when they come next time. Who knows? But we also have the World Test Championship final coming up, which should have been in Mike's backyard, but that's under a bit of a doubt, right? It might be because of the bubble situation. They may move it to Southampton or Manchester. But how do you look at the challenge, especially for India playing New Zealand in English conditions?
Well, the New Zealanders will have a bit of a head start. I'm not sure how many are going to play in the Test series, because they're talking about moving the IPL final back a bit so that the New Zealand players can actually play in the Test matches in the UK. So
they have just announced
the
IPL final. It's going to be played, I think, on the 30th of May. So it's not in June, it's at the end of May.
So it'll be quite interesting to see whether those guys do come over to the UK, because the first Test match is supposed to start on the 2nd of June. So that'll be a very quick turnaround for them. So it might mean that they'll have a full strength side for the second Test match up at Edgbaston. But they'll have had a couple of obviously warm-up matches of a decent calibre. I understand India are going to bring quite a big squad over and play amongst themselves, some warm-up matches and do that. So they'll be there for 2 or 3 weeks maybe in a bubble, maybe down at the Aegeus Bowl down there, where they've managed to do that before, so they can play amongst themselves and actually get some good practice on the same pitch they're going to play on, possibly. So I think that they're going to be in a good place, India. I have to say, New Zealand, though, turning out to be a very good test side at the moment. Kane Williamson, a great captain, a great player. This guy, Carl Jameson, who's turned out to be an amazing cricketer and probably has possibly got, the ability to be one of the great all-rounders for New Zealand. They've got a bit of everything in there. They've got some really decent seamers as well. So it's going to be a fascinating match, actually, because I think it's, with India, with their seamers as well, Ishant Sharma, Bumrah, Siraj, you really do have a wealth of good seamers. So I think it's going to be a very, very interesting match. And I think it'll be one of those, hopefully if the weather stays fine, one of those test matches that we'll see some fantastic cricket. But I do think it's going to be a very, very, very good contest. Very good contest and very enjoyable as well, I think.
Absolutely. And Sachin, your expectations, if in case you can't get into the president's box, you may have to make arrangements at Manchester or Southampton.
I'm sure my uncle Paul Allott or my uncle Rod Bransgrove would look after me.
I'm sure they will, Satch. I'm sure they will. But I think the pitch down at the Aegeus Bowl will be good pitch. I mean, I think it'll seem a bit to start with, but then it'll also turn a bit. So I think it'll be a very, very good cricket pitch. It has been down there for a little while. So as I say, it should give people on both sides the opportunity to use their very well balanced attacks.
Exactly. And now that is still a few months away. And before that, we've got the IPL, a lot of cricket in store. Thankfully, vaccines are out. We are looking at maybe a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a positive sign. Cricket is definitely helping us all overcome this. And having said that, I would also say, Mike, it has been fantastic to have you through the test series, sharing your views. And, it's with a lot of gratitude, I really say it's been phenomenal to discuss cricket and to learn a lot from you through these conversations.
Michelle, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and to Sachin. And it's been, as I say, a fascinating, if not difficult series, this one. As I say, I'm hoping and looking forward to another good series here in the UK against India in August. Yes,
absolutely. And yes, when England are going to host India, you will also have Sachin, most likely, who will come over there.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure we look after him. We'll have to pop into Enfield for a cheese and ham
double ham and cheese toasty.
Yes, I'm sure that trip's not only going to be about the cricket, but also a bit about football. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Knee Sports. There will be a lot that we will be bringing to you on Knee Sports. Remember to subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon for all the updates, and do remember also to like us on Facebook, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter.